Hey everyone, Kyle once again. Welcome back to the next movie review, and today I'll be reviewing this classic action series that I've always enjoyed growing up. And I'll be covering this series, which probably won't be all in a row though, because I got episode reviews to do though. But still, I'll be still covering this series though. But today I'll be reviewing a classic action series of the Lethal Weapon movies, starting with the first one from 1987. Starring Mel Gibson and Danny Glover, these two have always been fantastic together. Danny Glover and Mel Gibson, they always had the perfect buddy cop chemistry, back and forth dialogue. So many memorable, with these two, and of course, which I have the first one here, and then of course I got 2, 3, and 4 here. All of them directed by the late Richard Donner. Sadly, he's now passed away. Sadly, I think he passed away. Did I mention that he passed away last year? I think he did. But yeah, Richard Donner, may rest in peace. He always did a great job directing the Lethal Weapon movies. Of course, Richard Donner directed other films, of course, like the first Superman movie, of course. Then later, Scrooged with Bill Murray, which he had problems working with Bill Murray, which I mentioned before. But I like Richard Donner. I like Richard Donner. Of course, he was the executive producer for Free Willy. Didn't direct it, but executive producer. But I always enjoyed the way his finest work was the Lethal Weapon movies. And Shane Black, who wrote the Lethal Weapon movies. Of course, he wrote in other action films as well, like The Last Boy Scout, which I always enjoyed. He wrote on that, and then, which of course Shane Black not only was a writer, but he also directed. Of course, years later he directed Iron Man 3, and then, which I did not like, and of course a lot of people don't. But he also directed The Nice Guys, which I liked. And Shane Black, of course, he also played Hawkins from Predator as well. So actor, writer, and director. The score by Michael Kamen in the first movie, by Michael Kamen, which he I think he did the scores for the rest of the movies as well. Of course, also for Die Hard and The Last Boy Scout as well. And also Eric Clapton had a hand in doing the music of this, especially Martin Riggs' theme, with the guitar, So Eric Clapton had a hand in part of making the music, especially for Mel Gibson's theme. And the first one, it was straight off the bat, the first film, all-time action classic. This is a film I have no problems with whatsoever. No problems at all. So, and the first one came out in 1997, and this also takes, and really not this takes place, well, I'm sure a lot of people say the chorus, but this takes place on Christmas. And I think so you can say this is also a Christmas movie, but the thing is, of course, this came out a year before Die Hard did. Yeah. So, yeah, Christmas film that came out before Die Hard, so... because this was 87. And like I said, Danny Glover and Mel Gibson, they're just perfect together. Absolutely perfect. And you have a great bad guy as well, played by Gary Busey, an actor I always enjoyed. He was a great bad guy as Mr. Joshua. And also the other villain, you have Mitchell Ryan, which he's the other villain, the general in this film, which I think he's really enough. Get to that. Yeah, Mitchell Ryan. Yeah, the other villain in this film besides Gary Busey, he plays General Peter McAllister. Now, that, of course, if you're to recall, Peter McAllister, that, of course, later used almost the same last name, but it's not Allister, but of course Callister. Remember, Home Alone, Peter McAllister, played by John Hurd. Of course, that has to be a later. Of course, they probably had to influence his name later on in Home Alone because Peter McAllister. Maybe because they use that later on. They use that name later on from this character in this movie later in Home Alone. Except not Alistair, McAllister. And also Mitchell Ryan. And then years later, he would later be Dr. Wynn in Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers. He was the guy who revealed to be he was the Man in Black, and he was ran that sanctorium in Halloween 6. Dr. Wynn. I'm like, really? I forgot. Yeah, Halloween 6. He was in that. Wow. And also also part of the supporting cast, you have Tom Atkins, from Night of the Creeps, of course Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Stop it! Maniac Cop, and among other movies. I always liked Tom Atkins. Of course, working with John Carpenter as well from The Fog, Escape from New York. So yeah, of course, his little works with John Carpenter as well. But yeah, but just like it's a film I basically have no problems with. Like I said, this series, not the first, but the whole series worked because of Mel Gibson and Danny Glover. They always have the perfect chemistry when they're talking to each other, and just everything about. Like I said, I have basically no problems from the action, some of the good practical effects, explosions, which a lot of times nowadays they'd be CG though, which those series also makes it great because actual practical explosions and stunt work. But going to the first film, how it opens up, we have this woman, tits hanging out, jumps off, commits suicide, which later revealed that there's stuff in her body that would have killed her anyway, so either way, she would have died either way. Which reveals that she's the daughter of Tom Atkins. And Mel Gibson, he's a soldier formerly, and then his wife died, Vicky, and he's just on the edge, he's on the suicidal edge, he wants to shoot himself. We see him in his trailer house, trying to kill himself, and he's like, maybe some other time. Yeah, because I guess the death of his wife was so hard, and yeah, he's on the edge of suicide, trying to kill himself. He's just psycho crazy, right? Which that thing is where they try to be in the police department. He's on a pension, because he's suicidal, crazy, right? Whatever it is. Until when he gets partnered up with Danny Glover, who's also he was before a cop Vietnam soldier as well, which that's why he was friends with Tom Atkins, because they were both in the Vietnam War together, and that's when he put on the case. So Sergeant Roger Murtaugh, Martin Riggs, Mel Gibson, Roger Murtaugh, Danny Glover, and they just have the best chemistry together. They just do. And of course later buddy cop movies, of course, with Rush Hour, Tango and Cash, Hot Fuzz, which I always enjoyed Hot Fuzz. But yeah, I always enjoyed the Rush Hour. I love Tango and Cash. There's other good buddy cop movies. So, and then Gary Busey, he's a great villain too. And which, of course, 3 years later, because it was 1987, 3 years later, Danny Glover and Gary Busey would star together in Predator 2. Predator 2, yeah, we said Danny Glover and Gary Busey would star together again, so... Yeah, I just love Predator 2, and they were both good too, really great in that, because, I don't think it's what I said. Danny Glover as Sergeant Murtaugh, I love though, but I mentioned my favorite performance from Danny Glover was as Mike Harrigan in Predator 2. Then this would be the second, because I love Predator 2 to death. It's a great kick-ass movie, criminally underrated. I keep on saying, doesn't deserve the hate it got. So, and Danny Glover kicking ass as Mike Harrigan. But Sergeant Martai is another excellent made character with Danny Glover still, no doubt about it. But Mr. Joshua, going back with Gary Busey, he's a really good bad guy as Mr. Joshua. Even though like how crazy he is, especially the scene where he taking the lighter and putting it under his arm, not basically feeling no pain. And the guy, I think one of the bad guys was criticizing that. He's like, "Hey, you're on another planet, whatever." And when he's watching Gary Busey have the light under his arm, it's actually from, I think it's Edo Ross. Yeah, because because Edo Ross, he was also the bad guy in Red Heat with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jim Belushi, and he was also in The Hidden as well. Yeah, because it's Edo Ross, right, from The Hidden and Red Heat. Yeah, he's the one who was criticized, like when Gary Busey putting the light on his arm, not feeling any pain, and Edo Ross is there saying, "Oh, you're on another planet from Pluto or whatever." Yeah, but good. But Mr. Joshua, Gary Busey's working for Mitchell Ryan, and it shows like how unstable Mel Gibson is. Yeah, because everything from death of his wife and everything, he's completely unstable, crazy, suicidal, and just the dialogue, with like some of the dialogue between memorable dialogue from Danny Glover and Mel Gibson. Or when he's dealing, or one crazy incident where they're dealing with there's a guy, another suicidal guy on a building. He wants to jump, right, and Mel Gibson up there acting crazy too, right? When he handcuffs him to the guy, and of course a very obvious mistake when they both jump off the roof. Obviously, you can see the cuffs break apart. Of course, a very obvious mistake, of course. But of course, that was to be clear. That's as clear as day, though. But it's just an obvious goof, you can say. And then when Mel Gibson tries to shoot himself again, and Danny Glover stops him, stop him from shooting himself. Like, of course, when he puts his hand right in the middle of where the trigger face is, hurting his hand, and Danny Glover is like, "You're not trying to draw a psycho pension. You really are crazy." Of course, the line that's in all four of them, of course, what Danny Glover says. When he first meets Danny Glover, Mel Gibson does, and he flips him over because Danny Glover thinking he's a crazy guy with a gun, right? And then Mel Gibson flips him over and says, "Hey, here's your new partner." And of course, Danny Glover is saying, which he says in all four of these movies, I'm too old for this shit. Yeah, that is just. I like to read all. I would like to read all these lines though. These great lines from the movie though, but I'm not gonna have time because I don't want to keep you guys waiting. Just hearing me just scan through all these great quotes, Or is after or like when they're trying to drive, it was like with the Mel Gibson. You want me to drive? Danny Glover. No, you're supposed to be suicidal. Remember? I'll drive. Anybody who drives around this town is suicidal. Yeah, there's a lot of great lines. I can't keep up with all of them, and especially in this movie. And then, but one thing leads to another. When leads to this case, the death of the girl from the beginning, which leads to Tom Atkins. That was his daughter. Danny Glover knows we're friends with Tom Atkins until the point when they're talking, and the bad guys come in. They killed Tom Atkins, and Also, when Martin meets Danny Glover's family, his two daughters and the son, and when the older daughter gets taken, and like when Mel Gibson tries to use a snipe, and when Danny Glover tries to go out there try to make a tray, whatever, he comes out with a grenade. Mel Gibson takes out some bad guys, but they get caught and they get tortured, which is kind of a dark thing in the scene in the first movie, you know. Let's say this first movie was more darker than all the rest of the movies. The first one was the darkest of the series. They're getting tortured, and Mel Gibson, he's getting tortured, being electrocuted by the guy, Al Leon. Al Leon, you know, you would recognize him with the long hair and the Chinese actor, long hair, beard, right? You would recognize him. He was one of the terrorists in Die Hard. He was one of the Wing Kong guys in Big Trouble in Little China. He played Genghis Khan in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Rapid Fire. You recognize him if you see him, Al Leon. But yeah, I'm also remember from Die Hard and Big Trouble in Little China. And so he's the guy who was tortured Mel Gibson, you know, electrocuting him, and till when Mel Gibson gets the upper hand and just snaps his neck, which is quite funny. That's that torture scene right there. That was actually you can actually watch that scene right there. You can be seen in The Last Boy Scout, like when Bruce Willis comes home and his daughter, played by Danielle Harris, she's watching TV and she's watching that one torture scene from the first Lethal Weapon movie. Really enough. Of course, both films are written by Shane Black. That's why. And then it gets to the point where the big fight with Gary Busey, which I thought was a very fun fight. You know, first when Gary Busey crashes into Danny Glover's house, and then it gets to the big scuffle with Mel Gibson. And all the police are there though, but Danny Glover tells everyone to stay back, just let Mel Gibson fight Danny Glover one-on-one. You know, it's like, get him, Riggs, get him, Riggs. And I always enjoyed Gary Busey. He was somebody who plays a good bad guy, somebody who plays a good guy, right? And so they got him. Then he turns around, and then both Danny Glover and Mel Gibson, they both shoot Gary Busey. And after that, then they celebrate Christmas, you know, afterwards. But yeah, I don't mean this to make it longer, because a lot of people have seen Lethal Weapon movie, either one or all, any of the 3 or 4 by now. But the first movie, it's not a lot for me not to explain, because, like I said, the first Lethal Weapon film is who hasn't seen the first one yet, though, right? But also with this film, like the first 3, except for the 4th film, these are director's cuts. I don't know why the 4th film did now. Maybe they didn't make it when they made the film, but the first 3 here are director's cuts, though. So, but the first Lethal Weapon film is an all-time classic. There's no any words I could describe how much I love the first Lethal Weapon film. Like I said, it was the darkest of the series, you know. Probably just the tone of the movie, maybe. But like during Christmas, and then the point where the dark parts, you know, when Mel Gibson and Danny Glover are being tortured, but it was well directed. Once again, excellently directed by Richard Donner, well written by Shane Black, the good score by Michael Kamen, and the some of the music that Eric Clapton had a hand in making the music, like the guitar part music for Mel Gibson's music, that's what Eric Clapton had a hand in. But yeah, Mel Gibson and Danny Glover, they're just perfect together. There's no words for me. It's one of the best buddy cops of all time, and these two are just, you know, just yin and yang, peanut butter and jelly. You know, these two are just the best together. They are, and it's just sometimes you just kind of feel like want to feel sorry for, you know, feel sorry for Mel Gibson, because, you know, like I said, he lost his wife. And he's just, you know, he's on the verge of collapse. You know, he's suicidal, he's crazy, and just, and also things. It's kind of like you know, and Danny Glover is like the one to kind of like just ease him down and, you know, get his life back together. And just these two are just they're just the perfect match. You know, Gary Busey was a great bad guy. I always enjoyed Gary Busey. Mitchell Ryan as the other bad guy, the general. Peter McAllister, later aspired for the other Peter McAllister, not Alistair McAllister in Home Alone, but it was kind of funny, you know. And it was also cool to see that Al Leon is one of the henchmen as well, the one that's torturing Mel Gibson, because I always like it, like, recognizable, you know, except from Big Trouble in China, Die Hard, Rapid Fire. Even he had a small opening, like a cameo appearance in the opening of Godzilla. If you remember in the beginning, at the start of Godzilla, that huge Japanese fish ship, right, when Godzilla hits it, when all the crew members are looking around, you see him pop up right there as well. As soon as standing right there when Godzilla digs the claw to the side of the ship, yeah. Even he had appearance in that movie too. But I like that guy. You know, he's just, you know, recognizable. But the first Lethal Weapon is an all-time classic. I just give it two thumbs up. You know, it rocks. It still rocks to this day. I love Lethal Weapon. My dad loves the Lethal Weapon movies. I think my dad saw this with my grandpa, his dad, my grandpa. I think he did see them together in the first one in the theaters, or was it Lethal Weapon 2? I forget. It was either the first one or the second film. I think it was the second film they both saw in theaters together. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the second film, which was another great sequel, which I'll get to that next though. But as of right now, the first Lethal Weapon, kick ass, great characters, the best buddy cops. But yeah, and it was lots of memorable dialogue as well. Like, I didn't get to all of them though. Like I said, it would take me forever to say all of them though. But still, but yeah, love this film to death. Kick-ass movie, still to this day. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next review, which I'll be getting to of the sequel, another great sequel. So I'll begin to that, and I'll see you on the next video. Later.